Have you ever imagined that there exists a mental code capable of opening the invisible floodgates of money? Thomas Troward said that wealth is not in the bank, but in the vibratory pattern of the mind that attracts it. Each thought is a password that activates or blocks the flow of good. And when the mind learns the right code, the exact thought that corresponds to abundance, the universe begins to respond with mathematical precision. But before diving into this ancestral secret, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and activate notifications. Here you will learn to apply the original principles of mental law taught by Thomas Troward, the judge and metaphysician who transformed spiritual thought into practical science. He affirmed that the mind is the safe and the universe is the bank, and that the key that opens this safe is conscious thought. Today you will understand what this code is and why, when it is activated, money ceases to be a search and becomes a consequence. Thomas Troward said that the human mind is the mechanism through which infinite life expresses itself. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between idea and fact, between cause and effect. Therefore, each thought, when sustained with conviction, functions as a spiritual ignition key. It triggers the creative energy of the universe and directs it to the field of forms. This is the operation of the mental code, simple, silent, and exact. He taught that most people use this mechanism in a disorderly way. They think about good and evil with the same intensity and thus create contradictory results. But the law is neutral. It does not distinguish between positive and negative. It only reproduces the dominant pattern. Therefore, the first step to activate the flow of money is to purify the mental field. Eliminate fear, resentment, and the feeling of lack so that the universe has a clean channel through which good can flow without resistance. Troward compared the mind to a transmitter of spiritual energy. The purer the signal, the stronger the emission. When thought is constant, loving, and serene, the universe captures the message and responds with perfect synchronicity. This is the first part of the code, clean and receptive consciousness. Thomas Troward taught that everything in the universe moves by vibration. Money, opportunities, ideas, everything is energy at different frequencies, and the human mind is the control center of these vibrations. When the mind vibrates in harmony with good, the flow of money begins to move automatically in your direction. But when it vibrates in fear, doubt, or resentment, the channel closes and the flow stops. He said, the universe is an echo. It only returns the sound you emit. Therefore, the secret is not in asking for more, but in changing the frequency of thought. The vibration of confidence is the true code that activates the flow. When you think of wealth with love, without desperation or guilt, the universe understands that you are ready to receive it. From there, coincidences become precise and doors open effortlessly. Troward affirmed that the flow of infinite money is not a miracle, but a response. The universe is governed by exact laws, and the mind that vibrates correctly receives correctly. This is the fundamental principle. Abundance responds to the inner tone of consciousness. Change the tone, and the entire melody of your financial life will transform. Thomas Troward said that the mind is the true laboratory where all wealth is produced. Each thought is a seed cast into the field of universal substance, and this substance, obedient, molds itself exactly to the idea it receives. Therefore, he taught that life does not respond to vague desires, but to clear mental images sustained with feeling. Clarity is the language of the law. The more precise the image, the faster the universe begins to organize it into form. He compared the mental process to old photography. First, the image is formed on the invisible negative, then it is revealed on the paper of reality. The mistake of most is trying to reveal before printing, acting before thinking correctly. But true power lies in creating in the invisible and trusting in the time of revelation. Divine substance never fails. It only awaits clear instructions. Troward said, "You are the chemist and the mind is the laboratory. Mix thoughts of faith, emotion, and purpose, and the formula will always result in prosperity." This is the second secret of the mental code. Visualize with love and patience, without doubt or haste. When the inner image stabilizes, matter has no choice but to obey. Thomas Troward affirmed that nothing happens by chance. Every manifestation is an exact correspondence of a mental cause. The mind is the seed and life is the soil. Everything that is planted in thought sooner or later sprouts in the physical world. Therefore, he said, there is no luck, only the response of the law. What you think with emotion and constancy will inevitably find form. He explained that this correspondence is perfect, neither punitive nor generous, just precise. If the thought is of confidence, the return comes in the form of opportunities, ideas, and prosperity. If the thought is of fear, the return comes in the form of blocks and scarcity. But the power is always in the same place, in the silent center of the mind. Life is not against anyone. It only reflects what is being projected onto it. Troward said that understanding this law is true liberation. Because by realizing that the effect is never greater than the cause, man stops fighting with the exterior and begins to correct the interior. He does not try to force results, he only changes the pattern of the mental seed. And as an inevitable consequence, the harvest of prosperity comes with smoothness and accuracy. Thomas Troward said that thinking without feeling is like sowing in dry soil. Thought gives form, but it is emotion that gives life. Therefore, he taught that the true mental code of prosperity is not only in words, but in the feeling that sustains them. When you think of wealth with fear, the universe receives the fear, not the desire. But when you think of wealth with joy, the universe recognizes the vibration and responds with abundance. He called this energy spiritual heat, the sacred fire that makes the seed germinate. Feeling is the electric field that transforms ideas into creative force. Therefore, every prayer, affirmation, or visualization must be accompanied by sincere and serene emotion. It is not about forcing euphoria, but about feeling anticipated gratitude, like someone who has already received what they asked for. Gratitude is the emotion that opens the doors of manifestation. Troward affirmed, "The universe does not hear what you say, but what you feel to be true." Therefore, the code of infinite money is activated when feeling and thought vibrate in unison. At that instant, the mind becomes a magnet, the spiritual field moves, and the flow begins to bring resources, opportunities, and the right people, all in perfect synchrony with your new vibration. Thomas Troward taught that prosperity is like a river, it needs to flow. Whenever fear or attachment tries to control the course of the water, the flow stops. But when there is confidence and circulation, the river naturally expands. Therefore, he said, the secret is not to accumulate, but to allow the constant movement of energy. Stagnant money is like stagnant water. It loses strength, brightness, and life. He explained that every time someone pays a bill with gratitude, donates with joy, or invests with faith, the universe understands that it can send more. But when the person spends with guilt or clings to the fear of loss, they close the door to their own flow. The mental code only works when there is emotional freedom. Divine energy needs space to circulate, and the grateful heart is the purest channel for this. Troward said, "Good cannot enter a container already full of fear." Therefore, the most powerful practice is to let go. Let go of control, desperation, the need to secure tomorrow. Confidence is the proof that the code is active. And when this confidence becomes a daily habit, money begins to flow in ways that reason cannot explain, because the universe understands that it has found a reliable channel. Thomas Troward said that the universe does not decide, it obeys. Everything that exists responds to the silent command of the conscious mind. Therefore, he affirmed that the person who learns to think correctly governs circumstances, while the one who thinks confusedly is governed by them. Each thought charged with faith is an order issued to universal substance, and this substance, obedient and alive, begins to work in silence to fulfill the command. He explained that the mental code of wealth is not in asking, but in decreeing with serene conviction. The request is supplication, the decree is certainty. Those who ask still doubt, those who decree already know they possess, and the universe only recognizes the vibration of those who already feel in possession of the desired good. That is why Troward said, "Faith is the tone of voice that the infinite understands. The secret lies in uniting image and conviction. Visualize abundance as something already present and decree with inner tranquility that it is so." The mind that thinks this way is not creating something new. It is only claiming what has always been theirs by spiritual right. At that moment, the law moves and the flow begins to obey the new order. Thomas Troward taught that a single thought sustained with constancy has more power than 1,000 scattered thoughts. The common mind oscillates between faith and fear, desire and doubt, and this instability interrupts the code. But the mind trained in spiritual discipline maintains a single idea alive until it becomes inevitable. Constancy is what transforms thought into creative force. It proves to the universe that the command was given with authority. He said that mental law is like the sun. It always responds, but only truly warms those who remain under its light. When attention is divided, spiritual heat dissipates. But when the mind fixes on a single vision of abundance day after day, something begins to change in silence. Energy concentrates, faith solidifies, and divine substance begins to take form. It is the point where the invisible becomes inevitable. Troward said, "Persistence is the physical proof of faith." Therefore, he taught that it is not necessary to pray many times, but to pray with firmness until you feel that you have been heard. This feeling is the seal that closes the creative process. From there, just continue in peace, because the universe is already executing the order with precision in perfect time. Thomas Troward affirmed that gratitude is the universal language of prosperity. It is the sign that the mind has recognized good as already existing. While the person asks, they admit absence, but when they thank, they declare possession. And mental law can only multiply what is recognized as real. Therefore, the act of thanking is, in fact, the act of creating. He taught that gratitude is the vibration closest to divine essence. When you thank, the mind instantly aligns with the infinite flow. Fear disappears, doubt dissolves, and the heart becomes an open channel. In this state, the mental code operates without blocks, because the universe responds to inner harmony. To thank is the simplest and most powerful way to decree faith. Troward said, "Gratitude does not wait for good, it confirms it." He recommended thanking not only for visible money, but for everything, for air, for ideas, for opportunities, for inspiration. Each gratitude is a seed that generates new forms of prosperity. When gratitude becomes a habit, the mind enters constant flow, and at that point, abundance ceases to be intermittent and becomes eternal. Thomas Troward said that money is not material, it is spiritual in essence. It is one of the forms by which the creative principle manifests in the physical world. When we understand this, money ceases to be taboo and becomes a sacred expression of the flow of life. It is not an enemy of the soul, but the messenger of divine intelligence, circulating among those who know how to honor its origin. He explained that money has no morality. It amplifies the consciousness that uses it. In the hands of the wise, it builds, heals, and blesses. In the hands of the ego, it separates and destroys. Therefore, Troward insisted that wealth only remains stable when it is understood as a spiritual force in motion. To honor money is to honor the good it represents: comfort, expansion, generosity, freedom. He said, "Everything that is divine desires to circulate." Stagnation is the opposite of life. When we use money with love, gratitude, and purpose, we become collaborators of the universal mind itself, and the more we give space for the divine to operate through us, the more it trusts to send us. At this point, money ceases to be something you seek and becomes something that seeks you. Thomas Troward affirmed that prosperity does not depend on what you have, but on the way you think about what you have. The poor mind can dwell in a palace, and the rich mind can begin in a simple room. What defines the flow is the inner attitude. Therefore, he said that money is attracted to minds that emanate order, confidence, and joy, and moves away from chaotic, pessimistic, or fearful mental environments. He explained that the mind must act as a noble host before abundance. Receive money with respect, treat it with gratitude, allow it to circulate with wisdom. Complaining, lamenting, or blaming are insults to divine law. Each word of scarcity is an order to close the flow. But when the person speaks with dignity and faith, they give the law the command of expansion. The word is the vibrational seal of inner attitude. Troward said, "Prosperity is polite, it only visits where it is well received." This means that money responds to the mental atmosphere that surrounds it. When there is tranquility, it remains. When there is fear, it disperses. The secret lies in maintaining a serene heart, elevated thought, and clean word. This is the posture of the true creator, one who radiates prosperity even before possessing it. Thomas Troward said that true awakening occurs when the mind stops trying to use the law and begins to live as its expression. In this state, the individual does not seek prosperity. They become prosperity in action. The separation between the I and the divine disappears, and thought flows in perfect harmony with the universal mind. Everything desired begins to arise naturally, like fruit that ripens without effort. This is the stage where the mental code operates in fullness. He explained that as long as there is effort, there is still resistance. But when the being recognizes that they and the law are one single movement, the flow becomes eternal. There is no longer fear of losing nor desperate desire to gain. There is only confidence. The mind lives in a state of active surrender, creating through peace, not tension. Faith transforms into silent certainty. Troward said, "Union with the law is the point where the finite becomes infinite. The awakened mind understands that good is inevitable, because good is the very nature of life. And at that instant, money, opportunities, and miracles become automatic expression of this inner harmony. Nothing needs to be forced. Life simply responds because you have become the code itself." Thomas Troward affirmed that the human mind is the point of multiplication of the universe. Everything it touches with faith expands because it carries within itself the same creative principle of the divine mind. Therefore, he said that the secret of success is not to attract, but to increase the capacity to contain good. The universe only delivers what consciousness is capable of sustaining without fear. Inner expansion is the invitation for outer multiplication. He explained that by elevating the mental pattern, the being expands their vibratory field. And this field, now more luminous, begins to attract compatible circumstances. Money comes, ideas arise, the right people approach, all by resonance. There is no magic. There is exact correspondence between vibration and result. Therefore, Troward said, the mind does not need more things. Things need more mind. This is the multiplying mind, tranquil, confident, generous. It thinks in terms of abundance, and everything around begins to grow. Love expands the field, joy magnetizes it, and faith solidifies it. When this triad stabilizes, the code is completely activated. At this point, life becomes a continuous cycle of giving, receiving, and multiplying. Thomas Troward said that true power is not in learning the law, but in becoming the law itself in action. When the mind awakens to this truth, fear disappears, and the flow of infinite money becomes inevitable. There is no more search, only expression. The human being understands that they are the channel through which divine abundance moves, and with each thought, word, and feeling, they shape their world. This is the supreme revelation of the mental code. He said, "You do not need to open heaven. It is already open. You just need to align your mind with it." This alignment is the state of consciousness in which money becomes a natural reflection of inner harmony. Gratitude replaces anxiety, faith dissolves doubt, and love organizes all forms. At this point, the universe ceases to be distant and becomes a mirror of your own illuminated mind. So as we close this video, remember, the code is within you. It awakens when you decide to think in tune with the infinite. Everything that is good, just, and beautiful already exists in potential, waiting only for your acceptance. And as Thomas Troward said, prosperity is the breath of God through the human mind. If this message resonated with you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to remember their power. Each awakened mind reignites the flow of abundance in the world. You are part of this movement, the channel through which infinite money finds its way.